Hello, hello. We often take simple pleasure for granted. A square of chocolate, a morning run, a familiar language spoken with ease. But behind this everyday moment can lie entire journeys of identity, belonging, and purpose. In today's episode, we meet someone who turned a universal love, chocolate, into a cultural mission. Khanh Linh is French, born in France like me, with Vietnamese roots. After a career in consulting and consumer goods, she landed in Vietnam and co-founded the Cocoa Project, a space dedicated not just to chocolate, but to rethinking our relationship with nature, farming, and culture. Her story is not just about business, it's about returning, reconnecting, and redefining what it means to belong as well. So this is Mosaic Mind, a podcast about identity, bold choices, and the fragments that shape us. I'm your host, May Holland. So my guest today is Khanh Linh, resting entrepreneur, and she playfully calls herself, I really like the word, resting entrepreneur. I think it's probably my first time that I see this and love it. A former McKinsey consultant and the co-founder of the Cocoa Project, a chocolate startup born from a dream to create a chocolate culture in Vietnam. So Khanh Linh was raised in France, educated at HEC Paris, and has lived in Vietnam for 8 years. Her journey weaves together the diaspora experience, entrepreneurial drive, and a deep respect for nature and identity. She is also the contributor to Sustainable Cacao Institute, championing change in the chocolate industry. So she believes that if someone doesn't like chocolate, they just haven't tried the right one yet. Lynn, welcome to Mosaic Mind. How are you?
Hi, Mi. Thank you very much for having me on this podcast. I'm doing great. Happy to be
You
here.
look great. You're in France, I'm in Australia, so we really absolutely on the other side of the planet. So absolutely. So this is why I have my winter gear and you have your summer gear here. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about you. So, our podcast is really talking about our identity. So you lived in France and in Vietnam, and now you're back to France in Annecy. And I really want to ask you, do you consider yourself more French or Vietnamese, or is there such a question that you're asking yourself? How is it with you?
It's an interesting question for sure. The question of identity. I usually call myself French with Vietnamese origins. I don't call myself like French Vietnamese or Vietnamese French or even Viet Kieu. My core identity is French, but I do have parents that come from Vietnam. So I guess that's makes me who I am.
Awesome. Okay, so that's very straight answer. Okay, because it's really interesting because we talk to quite a few women, and there's always different answers there. So yours is very straight. So can you tell me more? So when you were living in Vietnam, can you tell us a little bit more about your biggest challenges when you moved to Vietnam years ago? So not just logistically, but emotionally and culturally.
For sure. Actually, going to Vietnam, for me, it wasn't really going back to Vietnam. I didn't land in Vietnam with a choice to go back to Vietnam, as it is the case for many people. I just had or at least it was unconscious, I had a desire to live outside France, and Asia was a continent that was attractive to me. That's where I wanted to have an experience, a professional experience. And actually at that time I had the choice. I had the choice between going to Thailand and going to Vietnam. It so happened that the opportunity in Vietnam was just more interesting to me. In the end, this is the professional choice that made me choose Vietnam. But I did have a lot of reserves about being in Vietnam. It was, in a way, I preferred to go to Thailand because it was just being, French and going to another foreign country and just being a random foreigner there and integrate the foreign community. In Vietnam, this choice was more loaded with everything that, it shuffles a lot of things about who I am, the choices that my parents made of living abroad. Like in Vietnam, I wouldn't be just a foreigner working here. I'd be a Viet Kieu or someone that comes back. And I didn't really want to come back. I just wanted to work in Asia. But in the end, I did choose Vietnam. And in the end, it ended up being a comeback because it lasted 9 years.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
Catching up.
I stayed 9 years in Vietnam in the end. I arrived in 2016 and came back to France just this year. And in this case, it was really a comeback to my country, my home country. So yeah, in a way, it was a coming back to Vietnam, but that was not really the plan in the first place.
Right. Okay. Because I recall you mentioned a story before, when you were traveling in Thailand and you met somebody in the bus when you were traveling. And I was just wondering if you can tell us a little bit more about the story, which actually shifts your life, that person that you met in the bus and mentioned something about chocolate.
Yeah, no, it's just that to create the connection between my arrival to Vietnam and what happened afterwards. So I arrived to Vietnam much because I wanted to have a meaningful professional experience. Ended up joining AB InBev, a beer company. But deep down, I had a desire to work for the chocolate industry. But I mean, the right opportunity didn't arise at the moment. And I did still want to go to Asia. So that's how I ended up working for ABI, which is ended up is not the right word because it's a fantastic company. I had a fantastic experience, colleagues, opportunities, super grateful for that. But after 3 years there and evolving between Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam, I still love my colleagues, but I was wondering was that what I wanted to do? Because deep down, I still had the desire to work in chocolate. And actually, on one day, someone asked me, actually my current partner, he asked me, is it really what you want to do? I work in the beer industry. And I was actually, no, my dream is to work in chocolate, but I haven't been able to yet. And the next day, I was going to the start of a race in Dalat. So it was the start of a race. It's quite early, it's like 4 a.m. in the morning. And there I sat next to someone. He was a Belgian man and he started asking me what I do. And I told him I work for beer. Oh, I'm Belgian. And you, what do you do? I created my chocolate company in Vietnam 20 years ago. Yeah, and that's how I met Grisha, who gave me the opportunity to work in chocolate and to create the Cocoa project with him. That's how my journey with chocolate started.
Right. Okay. Because I recall that story when you mentioned to me last time about, that encounter in the bus, and then this is, things have changed. And then you also mentioned at that time about your dream about having a chocolate museum. And I really wanted to ask you a little bit more about that. So what was the driver of all this chocolate passion? It's quite unique. And I think that you are probably my first person ever who said, I'm going just to make something out of something I like, which is chocolate. So what's the story? What is the story behind, which was the trigger, the passion that you have?
The trigger was definitely the encounter, and the trigger for the passion, I can't really explain it. It's just that I had the opportunity when I was a consultant to work for a chocolate company, a fantastic French chocolate company. And when I landed in their office, something very physical happened, which was the smell of chocolates. So it was inside their office. We're next to the factory, so you can imagine like a very typical office and factory. And it was a gray day. It was raining. And actually, I go out of the taxi and hear like a wonderful smell of chocolate overwhelms me. So I say my first drive to chocolate was really purely sensual and physical, which is weird to say, but anyways, that's was how it started. And yeah, the company was fantastic. It was populated with very driven, passionate employees. The purpose of the company was great. So that's how I thought, okay, chocolate is an industry where I could see myself working. And going back to your question about what about the start of the project as a museum, actually, so when I met Grisha in that bus, I just simply asked him for a job, but he didn't really have a job for me inside his company. It was all full. So there was no job to occupy at the moment, but he did have projects he wanted to entertain outside of his company related with chocolate as well. And one of them was to create a chocolate museum. And the whole project started with how to build a chocolate museum in Vietnam so that people in Vietnam would understand the story the value of chocolate, the importance of choosing Vietnamese chocolate over origins. And yeah, in the end, the project became something else, but it still has at its core the desire to create a culture of chocolate. So I guess it was a pivot, but not a total, burial of what the project was in the first place.
I mean, I love the Cocoa Project. I still go there. When I'm in
Yeah, I'm happy
Vietnam, I
you
love
do.
it. It's
Happy you do.
absolutely, the most astonishing taste, really. And so when you were talking about, the culture in Vietnam, and that is so true, because you know what? Because when you go to Vietnam, it's coffee, coffee, coffee everywhere. And I am not a coffee drinker. So I was so happy when I said, what, a chocolate place, like just for chocolate. And can you tell us a bit more when you started? What do you mean by having a culture of chocolate in Vietnam? Because Vietnam really has a culture of coffee. But what does that mean for you in your own words? What does that mean to have that chocolate culture in Vietnam?
Well, in a way, the best way to look at it is to derive it from the coffee culture that you have in Vietnam, except that this time it's for chocolate. But where the idea came from, it was from the idea that there was chocolate in Vietnam. I mean, when we started the project, Grisha's company was a chocolate company. It's just that what people are doing with chocolate in Vietnam is very much about reproducing a lifestyle that you see in other countries, or enjoying a pain au chocolat, or enjoying chocolate the way people enjoy chocolate in Europe, for example, where we are big chocolate consumers. Or you ask someone Vietnamese if they like chocolate, they will say, yes, I love Hershey's. And my cousin brings me back Hershey's when they come back from the US. They come to Vietnam, they bring me this kind of chocolate. So it's not a way of enjoying chocolate that is made for Vietnamese taste, specially made for Vietnamese lifestyle. Very much like coffee in Vietnam. Now it's really Vietnamese coffee. Now in France, I can find places where they propose to me Vietnamese coffee. So banh mi, which is an appropriation of of the French baguette or the sandwich. So this is a different type of culture, and I love that. So yeah, that's was the aim. I don't know if we're there yet, but the core idea behind the Cocoa Project was to create a culture of chocolate in Vietnam.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah. Well, I stopped drinking coffee for 20 years now, so I'm really chocolate and chai tea. So
That's
that's
pretty good.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, yeah. So that's awesome. So you have done a lot of things. You have worked in many countries as well, and obviously, you're traveling now and you're back to France. But can you tell us more about, maybe one, or, what are you the most proud of, maybe personally, professionally? So you have done a lot of things, but would you be able just to pick the one which actually makes your heart beat faster?
For sure, building the Cocoa Project is definitely one of the things I'm proud of. Proud of the team. I mean, proud that it still exists. So it's definitely something that I am proud of. If I had to pick one.
Yeah.
But then if I get to pick two, something more recent that has happened is the launch of my podcast, Builders. Is something that that really gave me a lot of energy, and it's different. I mean, Cocoa Project is a physical project. It's something that you can get to see and experience, and it's has a lot at stake with people and with a concept, and it's years of preparation for that. I mean, not only the years I spent working on that, but the decades that Grisha has been thinking about this project. But launching a podcast for me was really a leap of faith, and you have to unveil a lot of yourself in a way. I mean, it's a very personal project. So yeah, that's definitely something that I'm proud of doing as well.
Tell us more. Tell us more. This is so cool, how we meet through podcast. So tell us more. So your podcast is called Forest Builders?
Yeah. So it's Forest Builders. Actually, now it's two podcasts, and I'll explain a bit why. So after my journey with Coco Project ended, because now I'm no longer part of this project. Now I'm back in France. So the project continues, but I'm not part of it anymore. I kind of had a year of resting. I mean, that's where the title Resting Entrepreneurs come from. And I needed to step back, reconnect with what I want to do, find back my identity aside from being the person that co-founded the Coco Project. And it is a challenge for a project that is so full of passion, so full of energy, to be able to step back from it and to find yourself back again. That was a journey that took me 1 year. Now I'm back in France and I'm on to a new project, but I actually needed a rest time. And I'm very grateful that I could have that time. But during that resting time, you may ask, like, what are you doing when you're resting? Are you just like laying down on the couch?
Actually,
Sometimes,
was going
yes.
to ask, are you eating chocolate when you're resting? What do you do when you rest as a resting entrepreneur?
What does one do? I guess resting entrepreneurs do many things. It depends on the person you'll be talking to. But as for me, I took time to reflect, worked with a coach to to get as much support as I could. I did some meditation, a lot of yoga, connect with my body, my soul, my spirit. But something that I felt I needed to broaden my horizons. I mean, at that time I was in Vietnam, in Ho Chi Minh City, working for a chocolate project, the Coco Project. So it was very focused, very dedicated. But when you have to move on from this chapter, then I needed to expand. And for me, expansion was through inspiration. So I felt the need to meet people that would inspire me, that would share something about themselves or their stories or what makes them want to wake up in the morning, that I would feel connected to. And so I had some intuitions that I followed. So I had the intuition that I wanted it to be on the topic of forests, even though I have like no experience in forest. I'm not a forester. I don't spend a lot of time in the forest myself, but I had,
I would
no,
have
I
put
don't.
the opposite.
I mean, I love nature, of course. I
Yeah.
love hiking. I'm more an outdoors person, but I'm not a forester. I don't have an agronomic background, or I don't have a forestry background. But I felt like I had something that I wanted to understand from there, or from the people that work there. I felt connected to this cause, and I felt, okay, I want to meet people that do something for forests, because with everything going on, I mean, you don't know what's right or wrong anymore. You don't know. It's hard to keep the north of what is the right thing to do. And sometimes you want to do great. You want to do something good for the environment, but it can end up backfiring because, I don't know how to say in English, but l'enfer est pavé de bonnes intentions. So you try to do good, but sometimes it will backfire. And I thought that some people doing something for forests, there was not really, I mean, there was no way that it could be a bad thing. So I wanted to connect with these stories. And yeah, and so I started, and I don't know many people that do something for forests, just like 1 or 2%. And so I just started with this idea. So creating the concept, thinking that's what I want to do. I want to talk with inspiring people that do something for forests. And I want to share that you can make bold choices for something that you believe in. And that's exactly what I found doing this podcast. I met fantastic people, wonderful stories that you would not believe. I mean, just yesterday I interviewed someone who created an endowment fund with all the earnings of a guy who won Euromillion in France. Like, he won 200 million euros or something like that.
Oh my
And
gosh.
he dedicated everything to nature, like very similar to the story of Yvon Chouinard from Patagonia. But that's just one story. There's another story of a guy actually he's Australian. He used to be a zoologist, and he fell in love with one species of tree kangaroo in Papua New Guinea. So he thought, I really want to save this species of tree kangaroos, so I will dedicate my life to this. And so he's been in Papua New Guinea for 30 years with his wife to organize how to save this endangered species. So yeah, these are stories that I found deeply motivating, inspiring. It makes you think about, okay, if I have one life and one single little life, what can I dedicate it to? And just seeing how these people do is profoundly inspiring to me.
You inspire me. You absolutely inspire me, just to go and find out more about those people. And I think, and I really hear you completely when you are driven by purpose and when you hear stories which are bigger than themselves, you really see the beauty of people doing something which is not just taking,
Yeah.
taking, right?
Yeah, but, I mean, just to finish on this story, I mean, for me, it gave me goosebumps. But this person who gave everything he earned to the cause of forest, of nature, he didn't play Euromillion a lot. He just played several times when la cagnotte, when the earnings would be very big. And he did it not because he wanted to be rich. He did it with the purpose to, if he won, to create an endowment fund to give it to nature. So imagine, I mean, it's not as if it's not even the odds that he would play a lot and he would get it. He would play on specific days with the hope to earn the big prize and to give that big prize to nature. And he won. And I think he's one of the biggest winner of all times of Euromillion. And I think that story it just gives you trust. I mean, trust in destiny and trust in people.
Yeah. And I absolutely hear you on this one when you're sharing stories like this where people have purpose and driven by to give back something for the privilege for us to be living in this planet. I think that is more than inspiring. I mean, we should really all listen and do ourselves something. Maybe not that big, but maybe something like only an acre of land. Yes, they got a lot of work. But yes, it's nature teach you so much, as you know, so it's absolutely wonderful. So I was just wondering, so you have been transiting from France, many countries, and then Vietnam, where you have been in Coco Project, and life in Vietnam has been very intense, where we think about identity, but also different ways of working. And then you move back to France, where you are having also, that podcast, which is really about talking about the environment. I was wondering, how do you transition between all those high intensity working lifestyle in Vietnam to another lifestyle, another culture, back to France? How do you do in terms of lifestyle, working style, identity? How do you navigate all?
Well, I mean, how am I trying to navigate all that would be a better question. I don't feel that I have drawn all the conclusions of this transition move yet. I've just been back to France for the past 6 months. So time went super quickly and so far it's been a bliss. But you know what they say about going back from expatriation? It's a curve. So you have steps and honestly, I was kind of apprehensive of what it could be like because it's a big move and you scratch yourself from where you managed to build something to go to a place that is your country, but still is new. I mean, Annecy is a new city for me. So far, so good, I want to say. But I don't know what tomorrow is made of. I don't know yet all of the challenges that will be coming. But if I can reflect on a few things that I've done that made this transition go smoothly so far, it would be preparation. So actually sometimes transitions come fast, especially if it's through expatriation. I mean, either as an employee or as a spouse, it goes very quickly. So you have a job offer, you take it, 3 months later, you're in another country with all your family. And if you're a spouse, then it's a challenge. So in my case, I had 1 year to prepare for this move. And in my head, it was even more because I had known for 4 years before that this was the project. So it was just slowly getting closer to the moment when we would be coming back. I mean, of course, you can have a project to come back to France in 3 years' time, but you never know what life is made of. Maybe you have another opportunity. So you don't know if it will come for real. But 1 year of preparation, I think, is not bad because it gives you time to prepare your heart to leave Vietnam, a country that I still deeply love. to spend time with your friends, to enjoy what life has to give you there, and at the same time to start reconnecting with networks, with how you think that you will integrate in the life in France, in the new city. So just reconnecting with people. Maybe sometimes if you can come back to France and take some time to, have a coffee, have a lunch, to recreate a connection with people there, so that, yeah,
Hot chocolate.
hot chocolate with people who are here. So that's, I guess that's what made it easier. So starting to split a bit of your time and being in transition mode for a moment that is longer than a few months, actually, that helps.
Yeah. So connection. Okay. So we talked today a lot of things about connection. So connection to nature, connection cultural and connection with a sense of purpose to create that culture of chocolate. So I always ask the same question to all my guests because this podcast is called Mosaic Mind and really is that pieces of Mosaic Mind. So if your leadership journey or your self-leadership journey, whatever you want to call it, is a mosaic and, made up from fragments everywhere of identity, of ideas, of insight, of stories, of bold choices, of mistakes, of whatever, what would be the key ingredient, the key glue that holds all your mosaic mind together?
That's a very interesting question. I've been thinking about it. I guess for me, it would be serendipity. It would be the fact that a lot of things that happened to me and that ended up being meaningful for me were encounters, but also chance encounters. It's a mix of luck, of meeting the right people at the right place, and just enjoying that luck and seeing where these encounters take me, and a mix of having an open mind, open heart, and trusting that we are here for something, that there is a purpose. Sometimes maybe you don't know it, but there is a purpose, and the way to accomplish this purpose is through connections, through connecting with people. And sometimes the connection itself is just what you will keep, but sometimes it will take you a few miles further. So yeah, I guess for me, if I look at what connects the dots that make my own experience, I would say this is encounters and what they brought me.
That's beautiful. So I love the story of today from, consulting to, being driven by purpose for creating culture of chocolate in Vietnam, to, starting your podcast and meeting people who have amazing, inspiring stories, and linking to the environment, I absolutely love it. So I'm sure that, after this, I think I'm going to change my glass of water for hot chocolate, thinking about you.
Yeah, winter time is a great time for enjoying hot chocolate. I hope you do.
Absolutely. And I will definitely visit you in Annecy.
Yeah.
So to our listeners, if you connected with the podcast, if you love, this kind of story which inspire you about, bringing you the motivation that, we can have many journeys, through the lens that we bring on women, leadership and identity. So you can subscribe to Mosaic Mind, and believe me, there are more to come after Khanh Linh. So I'm Me Holland. Thanks for listening. Thank you, Khanh Linh.
Thank you for having me.